do this all day.
A bunch of a-holes. Truth is, I am Iron Man.
Hello again, this is Jordan Wiegand, and you're listening to Marvel Plus, part of the Behind the Dreams podcast network. Today, we are talking about the big news that happened on Thursday, October 8th. We got some confirmation of who is going to be the Avenger character that's in Spider-Man 3. So, if you didn't know, part of the deal with Sony and Disney is that Marvel has to give up one of the characters to put into a Spider-Man film. So that's kind of the goal, you know. So the reason why is because Sony wants the box office push from the MCU. By now, you could probably go ahead and do that just from how popular Tom Holland's Spider-Man is without that, but I think it's just part of the contracts, to be honest. So, let's get into it. It's going to be Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange in the next Spider-Man movie. So, just like Spider-Man Homecoming had Iron Man, Spider-Man Far From Home had Nick Fury and Maria Hill, we're now going to have Doctor Strange in Spider-Man 3, which actually starts filming next week. Probably just little things in New York. Probably not anything huge. Tom Holland's still wrapping up Uncharted for Sony. But, so let's get into it here. As soon as this news broke, everybody started saying, well, this confirms the live-action Spider-Verse movie. This confirms Andrew Garfield's coming back. It confirms Tobey Maguire's coming back. And the way people are getting this is not from any sort of official sources, honestly. The way that they're getting it is through the fact that Jamie Foxx is cast as Electro, and as I said in our first episode, Jamie Foxx did post on Instagram. It's since been deleted, but because he used some fan art that I think hinted towards Spider-Verse, and I don't think that's what he meant to do. But I think he was probably told to put it down. But he said he's not going to be Blue in this one. So he was Blue in Amazing Spider-Man 2. He's not going to be Blue in this. For me, that seals it that this is a different Electro. This is not going to be the Electro from Amazing Spider-Man 2. But everybody still took that as confirmation that, all right, we're going multiverse, you know? And I think what is going on here is that people see the Doctor Strange news, and what is the next Doctor Strange movie called? If you don't know, it's called Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. If we didn't know that title at this point, I don't think that this would be the first thing on people's mind, because this was not the first thought on my mind. I knew this is where everybody's was going to go. But there is some other comic stuff that I'm going to get into right here. So if you're not familiar with comics, that's what this podcast is to help for, breaking stuff down from the MCU and on Disney Plus to talk about, you know, some of the source material, where it could come from, what they're basing it off of. And in this instance, Doctor Strange does have some relevancy here, and he actually has some relevancy to Spider-Man's current state. So, there was a comic, very controversial comic run in like 2007 called One More Day, and it leads into Brand New Day, which is another arc written by Dan Slott for Spider-Man. And the way it is let's just let me just try to break this down. So in Civil War, not the movie, but in Civil War the comic, Peter starts off siding with Captain America and saying they shouldn't be registered. He does switch over to Iron Man and unmasks himself and gives up his secret identity. So the reason why he was siding with Cap is because he has a secret identity. He didn't want anybody to come after Mary Jane. He didn't want anybody to come after Aunt May. So he, that's the core part of Spider-Man. So he goes ahead and unmasks himself. Everybody's like, oh, it's Peter Parker, right? I don't know if everybody said that, because how many people know this one guy who works as a photographer? But that's kind of the basis of what happens in this Brand New Day and One More Day story arc. One More Day leads into Brand New Day. In One More Day, Peter's out it still. He Aunt May dies, and he decides that he tries to make a deal with Mephisto. So Mephisto's kind of like a devilish type character, villain. He's rumored to maybe be the villain of Doctor Strange 2. We don't know that. There's rumors he could be in WandaVision as well. Again, we don't really know that, but that's what kind of people are thinking. But in this instance, what happens is MJ and Peter are married already at this point. This is, again, mid-2000s. So, they've been together for a long time. And he makes a deal with Mephisto, trading his marriage for Aunt May to come back to life. And I know what everybody's thinking. What does this have anything to do with Spider-Man or Doctor Strange right now, and the kind of spot here? There was a spot in the comic where, as part of that, it erases everybody's knowledge that his identity was outed. And it turns out that part was not actually part of Mephisto's deal. That was Doctor Strange doing that. So, everybody now, when that storyline returned, is that, Peter and MJ are no longer married. Aunt May's back alive, and nobody remembers that Peter unmasked. They have vague recollections of Peter unmasking himself, but nobody remembers who it is. They think, oh, maybe did Spider-Man do that? Did he? Maybe, I don't know. And then they move on to something else. They get, their brain kind of goes somewhere else after that, as part of Doctor Strange's magic. Well, what just happened at the end of Far From Home? This is where my thoughts go for it, is at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, in the mid-credit scene, we see J. Jonah Jameson release the Mysterio footage that shows that it's Peter Parker, and he shows who Spider-Man is. And I think this sets it up perfectly. One thing to consider as well, Multiverse of Madness is after Spider-Man 3. So I don't see this whole multiverse stuff starting way before then. It might start a little bit in WandaVision. We'll see. It doesn't really seem like it's that much of... It's maybe like a created reality in there. I'm not sure that's going to be all multiverse stuff yet. I think the Doctor Strange stuff is where it's really going to get into it. I don't see it happening for Spider-Man 3 yet. It could just be me, but maybe I'm wrong. But let's walk it through. Again, like I said, this is a very controversial storyline. This is something that a lot of people did not like, and a lot of people actually say it's the worst thing to happen to Spider-Man comics ever. So why would they put it in a movie? Well, I think Marvel Studios can actually do it a lot more justice. I think that they can do this a lot better. Let's think real quick of who knows, before J. Jonah Jameson outs Peter, who knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Mysterio knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Vulture knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. MJ knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Ned knows. Aunt May knows. You got all the heroes know too. You know, Iron Man, Cap, Captain Marvel that he introduced himself to. All of them know who he is. Nick Fury, Maria Hill, and Ned knows. I don't know if I said him yet, but it's a lot of people, and it's a lot more people than what typically knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Peter usually keeps it pretty on the straight and narrow. He doesn't really tell that many people. Though there are some variations with like the Ultimate Comics where he does, like Gwen knew, MJ knew, as far as I am in the Ultimate Comics. But this could work. Now, another reason why it can work is why it upset everybody is because it also just erased their marriage. MJ and Peter are not that far together into this. So what might happen is, let's say, Peter goes to Doctor Strange after this. He gets, near the end of the movie, somehow, there's got to be stakes. It can't just be he goes there and Doctor Strange says, yeah, sure, click, snaps his fingers, and it's all gone. There's got to be some sort of stakes that lead to it. But when he does, and let's say MJ forgets, and let's say it does kind of wipe out their relationship, because they kind of start dating after she knows he's Spider-Man. So that might be where Peter says, you know what? I don't think I can do this. He doesn't have to tell her that, because they're probably not actually dating then if it erases that part of it. But maybe he says, I can't do that. I can't let Ned know again. I can't let Aunt May know again. I can't let MJ know again, because if they do, they're in danger. Especially, we're gonna start getting, hopefully here, if Disney and Marvel continue their deal, Disney and Sony, continue their deal, we're eventually probably gonna get that more adult Spider-Man where he doesn't have mentors as much, and his villains are going to be coming after him more. Of course, we had Vulture who wanted to get back at Tony Stark. We had Mysterio who wanted to get back at Tony Stark. But Spider-Man's the one that stops him. So now I feel like they're coming after him. Right? We don't know how Electro's set up yet. We don't know if Kraven is actually going to be in it or not. So we don't really know. Scorpion, he made an appearance in Homecoming. He's in jail as well. So maybe he gets out. There's going to be some sort of stakes here where the villains are going to start coming after Spider-Man. And we already kind of got that hint in the Homecoming end scenes where they told Vulture, like, hey, you know who he is, right? Tell us. And he's like, no, I don't know who he is, because if I did, he would be dead. But he does know who he is. So that would help him get out of that spot as well. And it would also help him just be able to make that decision and say, you know what, if all these villains are going to start coming after me, if they find out who I am, I cannot have MJ, I cannot have Aunt May be targeted, so they can't let it slip up, I can't let it slip up, I got to keep it contained. So I think that's one way it can happen. Let's run through if it is multiverse real quick. If it is multiverse, I don't know how it fits in. I just don't know how it fits in this early into a storyline. Let's recap where he is again. His identity is open. People are going to be coming after him. If we do have Scorpion, and let's say Kraven is in it, and Electro's in it, and Doctor Strange is in it, how are we fitting in, all these people that say Tobey Maguire's going to be in it, Andrew Garfield's going to be in it. None of that is confirmed, by the way, but people are spinning that now because of the Doctor Strange angle, and it's like, I don't know how we fit that into a 2-hour, 15-minute movie. They did it in the cartoon, obviously, but like the cartoon Spider-Verse didn't have that that lead-in. You know, we have the lead-in right now of that Far From Home credit scene, which should shake up Spidey's world a lot. And I don't know how the way he gets out of it is through a multiverse. To me, that doesn't make any sense. I did see somebody say, well, maybe they switch Spider-Man. You know, like he goes into the other universe and another one comes here. But that doesn't help him either. Then he's just stuck in another universe. It doesn't really help. So I'm not really sure how that would work at all. But those are my thoughts. I didn't want to spend too much time on this. This is kind of a short episode just talking about that. One other thing I did want to talk about as well is that Disney Plus has updated their Marvel section. It now has the movies broken up in phases. So if you want to watch Phase 1 of the MCU, Phase 2 of the MCU, and Phase 3 of the MCU, it shows them all there, minus the Incredible Hulk, because that's Universal, has the rights to that still, and the Spider-Man MCU movies are not on there either. They also have a spot for the chronological view, so you can watch them in the timeline order as they put it on there. You can watch legacy movies. That's what they have, a section that has the X-Men Fox movies, the Fantastic Four. Those movies are listed there now as well. And then they have the cartoons and TV shows, as they always did, further down on the list. But it makes it a lot easier for newcomers. That was one of my worries when people go to the Marvel page. It had them all in opposite order, where the first result was like, I think, Endgame, and then the second result was Captain Marvel. And it went backwards in release order. At least now with this, they can see, they say Phase 1. Oh, that sounds like that's where I start. And they just watch that. Phase 2. Oh, I can do that. Oh, timeline order. Maybe I can start that way. And then they go through there. So I think that'll help a lot, in all honesty. And I'm hoping that, we get some more news on WandaVision soon. In the source code. I'm not sure if I talked about this last week. People did find in the source code that the release date did originally show as November 27th. If that was to happen, that's Black Friday. That would be a great launch. And you bet if that happens, I will be here, maybe with a guest or two. We'll break down that first episode on that Friday or Saturday and put it up. So, I'm hoping that's coming soon. But that's about it. That's going to wrap us up here. If you do want to follow us, I do have a Twitter handle. The Twitter handle, if you want to follow the BT, the Behind the Dreams feed, we're on Twitter at BT Disney Podcast, Facebook.com/Behind the Dreams Podcast, Instagram at Behind the Dreams Podcast, YouTube Behind the Dreams Podcast. There's not much on the YouTube. Or email us on Behind the Dreams Podcast at gmail.com. If you want to hit us up right on the Marvel page, Marvel Plus Recaps at gmail.com. Twitter at Marvel Plus Recap, and that wraps us up. So thanks everybody for listening. I hope this gave you a little bit more detail and why this doesn't mean it has to be multiverse, and to hold your horses on getting really excited for a live action Spider-Verse, because while I do want that eventually, I just think it's too early, 3 movies in, and I hope that I made some sense in discussing this. But have a great rest of your weekend. Catch you next time.